Hey guys, Captain Smash, Smash Strength Lab, Ottawa, Ontario. So today's blog topic is all about why women have more trouble losing weight than men. It's very true. Men are really easy at weight loss, and I hear it from some of my clients all the time. Their husbands, they start eating better, they start working out, and they immediately drop like 10 pounds. It's super easy. I have a woman that's been working with me for a couple months, and she's dropped 2 pounds, and she's frustrated and looking in the mirror going, why? Why is this so slow? And so there's 4 big takeaways for why women lose weight a lot slower, okay? So now, number 1, muscle mass considerations, okay? Men are typically bigger than most women. So they have a lot more muscle mass, they have a lot more power they can produce, and they can produce a lot more workload per unit of time. So that's one good plus for men, and then kind of a slightly negative for the women. So now the second one is fuel, both in storage and utilization. Women tend to store a lot more fat, their bodies are more prone to store fat, and they have a different mechanism for regulating hunger. So they're more leptin based on regulating hunger, which they get, basically leptin is kind of like your tracker for how much body fat you have. And if this gets mixed up and starts fighting against you, which is very easy for a woman to do, and she'll start adding on more and more fat and become more leptin resistant, she's going to gain a lot more weight. Versus men are they're more regulated by insulin. If their insulin level is kept at a constantly low rate and they're feeling less hungry, they're going to lose weight, provided they're burning enough calories. So, this also tends to be more of a plus for men than women in fuel utilization and also storage patterns. We kind of got a double whammy with, women being more predisposed to storing fat, both in the hips and thighs and also in the upper body mass. So the big one for most women is hormone levels. So, women are more estrogen and progesterone based. They have a little bit of testosterone. Men are more testosterone based. They have a little bit of estrogen, but that testosterone helps us build extra muscle mass and helps us stay strong and fit. The estrogen and progesterone, those play on one another, both with good side effects and bad side effects. So I'm hesitant to say that estrogen is more predominantly a good thing than the progesterone, but it all depends on your cycle and how long it lasts. If there's any fluctuations, all women are different on that one. So, and this can also affect how much fat you store, how much fat is being utilized, and bloating and premenstrual syndromes and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, that's a really complicated system, and you have to take that by a case-by-case basis for most women. So, also another negative, men have a big positive. So, as you can see, the men are in the lead for having the easier time losing weight, and women are kind of predisposed towards holding on to weight. They have to fight really hard to do that. So, now, we also have the evolutionary standpoint, which, it makes sense because as a species, we need women to survive, for the species to survive. It's more important, say back in time, for a woman that is pregnant. She's got to raise the child. She's got to produce breast milk. She has to bear the child. If there's a famine or a shortage of food, like, men are indisposable. Like, we carry the seeds and we pass it on, but then after that, our job is done. So women are doing most of the work. But from the evolutionary standpoint, the women need to survive in order to raise the child. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a human race. So, the guys are mainly responsible for the hunting and the protecting. And, that evolutionary standpoint, the women were more for raising the kids and trying to get them to repopulate the species. So, ideally, it makes sense for a woman to have greater fat storage potential so that she can survive a long period without food. And we can see this in common research, how women tend to store more body fat in the legs and the hips, which allows them to, in times of food scarcity, they still have enough fuel to produce breast milk so that they can raise a child and keep on caregiving for that child until a time where food is more plentiful and they can, thrive again. So, all right, so, this is kind of like, I'm gonna put that as a plus and a negative for guys, because once the apocalypse hits and food goes downhill, all the guys are dead and the women are surviving. So that's why you guys live so much longer. However, in today's society where we don't really have a trouble with food, we run into this problem that we've got so much foodstuffs and we we have to figure out a way to control our food consumption in order to get better at this. So now, there's a couple ways that women can combat all of these negatives, okay? So number one, with muscle mass, well, what can we do with muscle mass? We can lift weights, okay, perfect. So lift weights, boom. That's gonna add a greater boost to the metabolism. It's gonna help build a little bit of muscle, all of which is gonna increase your metabolism. So the next thing, fuel utilization. Okay, now how women store food and fuel is a little bit different than men because they're more predisposed to storing more fat. So what really needs to happen is making sure that the caloric balance is negative. We want to make sure that we're under eating a little bit in order to combat the extra fuel storage modes. And if you've listened to some of my other articles, there's a way to do this in sequence with your hormones so that you have a little bit better option. You don't feel quite as bloated toward the end of your cycle, and you're eating more appropriately for when you're on your cycle. You have to track it, but it makes it a lot more easier for you to handle. So, caloric deficit is our big takeaway here. So lift weights, create a caloric deficit, boom, okay, weight loss has started. Hormone levels. So highly suggest most women get their hormone levels checked, especially towards, when they're starting to feel that kind of premenopausal symptoms come on, get your hormone levels checked, see where you're at. That way you can have a better feeling for kind of what you need to do next. Okay, because really, once your hormones shut off, then you're into a whole different ball game, along with your training and your nutrition patterns. So now, the other main thing that we can do here in order to help off with fat loss is controlling stress. So stress will not only affect the hormones, but it can also get into a variation of adrenal fatigue, which can also offset our fat loss parameters. So, the big takeaway there is, a lot of women are always stressed out by, their workload and the kids and the job and all that. I found that if your stress level isn't under control, you're not going to drop weight quickly. It's just not going to happen. You're going to go back and forth up on the scale, and it's just not going to fall off as you want it to. So lift weights, caloric deficit, control your stress, and that'll set you up on the pathway to success. Despite all of these negative things, they all can be manipulated and get better. So, hey, hope you enjoyed this little video that I created. If you like it, give it a like. If you think somebody else might like it, give it a share. There'll be more information down in the regular written part of the blog, and I will chat with you soon.